run down so other people listening. And my name, I go by Ken Johnston. Call me Lieutenant Colonel if you want to, or call me Fleet Admiral. None of those are good. They're all good. But as far as this, I was born the son of a captain in the Army Air Corps during World War II. He lost his life trying to bring the world into peace, and came up some incidences which have recently been recovered through hypnotic regression of events and things that took place during my life. I've come to the conclusion that a lot of us worldwide that did the best they could, their families did the best they could to bring peace to the world, the earth here, that a lot of their children, their offsprings, have been chosen by extraterrestrials to be involved in bringing the knowledge to the world so that we can all function there. So I was looking at Skype you had a little earlier. Some of the information and things that they have there goes and shows and proves that I was one of the first 4 civilian astronauts for NASA during the Apollo program. Our job was to test the Apollo spacecraft, be sure that they were all safe inside the vacuum chambers. And so, in fact, that we had one guy almost lost his life inside the vacuum chambers, and there have been. So it's not just an easy free run to, pump down to 10 to the minus 12 torr vacuum, which is like 1 molecule of air every cubic square foot. So we were doing what we had to do to prove it was safe, so our astronauts could go to the moon, and we took great pride in the fact of being part of that organized group that we set on the moon and brought back safely to the Earth. So since then, of course, education degrees. I have 3 degrees in college, bachelor's degrees and doctorate degrees in aerospace engineering. Let's see, I worked at NASA with the Grumman Aerospace Corporation, and then later with, they set it up so that every 3 years contracts would end, and they'd have to redo their contracts with the government. And that's one of the ways they maintained secrecy, is because you keep moving people around everywhere. They don't get to get all of the information. I was fortunate that at the Lunar Receiving Laboratory, I was the director of the data and the photo control that was brought back from the Apollo programs, and I was able to secure and keep an archive. Once we were told to destroy all the extras and everything else, and I tried to get them to donate the records, the documents, everything that went on during the Apollo, because after all, we were civilians, we still are, and we paid for it, and I got jumped all over just to get rid of everything. I said, oh, fine. So I threw a whole set inside a duffel bag, put it in my car, threw the other stuff in the Dempsey dumpster, and I only kept 1 set, which became the master set of archived pictures, first generation off the negatives, and fortunately I've been able to survive. The fact that I gave a complete copy to Roswell's UFO Museum and Research Center, that was the safest thing I ever did, because that made it available to the world, and also made it where if something were to happen to me, so what did you do to Ken Johnston? And hey, it wouldn't do him any good to do me in. At least I hope not. I've had some close calls that I think were perpetrated on trying to shut me up. And unfortunately, you could ask my mother if she was here. Says, yeah, you ask Kenny, as they called me then, anything, and he'll tell you what it is. So they probably weren't too happy with me. Anyway, so since then, I've come forward, and that was the hardest thing to do, is come forward and make available to the world or the archive, as well as combating those that are trying to keep Earthlings into the dark, to where they don't realize that we are part of not just a solar system, but the entire universe, the sentient intelligent beings, and they've been waiting for us to finally get our act together so that we can become part of the Allied Federation of Sentient Intelligent Beings. So that's the part that I'm playing now. I like what has been said about me, 99% of it, and I'm willing to stay direct and provide all the information that I have, true data and records and things. And I'm honored to participate as a Fleet Admiral in our side program that personally I think it will be contacted more publicly when we have the rest of the full disclosure. By the way, full disclosure is in its process right now. I've had contacts and feedback that worldwide people are starting to accept the fact that, hey, we are not alone in this universe of intelligent beings, and it's high time that we take that responsibility and stop being primitive. And so many things we do, and people realize that doing good for your neighbors and doing good for not only human beings on planet Earth, but they'll find out interstellar wide. Once we're ready to do that, then we can join the Organization of Intelligent Sentient Beings and take our place in the universe of intelligent beings. So I'm pushing for that. I'm pushing for the much better wide, full disclosure. And fortunately, we've run into TJ and Ahmed, and forgive me, my memory got kind of banged up when they a year and a half ago when they rear-ended my car and whiplashed, and so I have a little bit of a dropout. I can't remember the other gentleman's name. Forgive me. You step in when you can, TJ, and give all the names of those that you've chosen to work with you on the program that we're presenting to the public. So that brings you up to date today. Oh, well, I guess you want to know. I've been a living, kicking being for 77 years. My official birthday is in October the 2nd, and I will be, and according to the calendar, 77 years old. But since I'm going to live to at least 180, I'm just getting started real good. And once I hit that 180, I'm going to push for 200. That'll be after that. So that should be enough information that anybody could probably track me down, and that's okay.
All right, John Johnston of California has joined us. John's a computer expert and has owned his own company out in California, so it's good to see John again. He's in our chat room. John's been with us probably, John, 2012 or so? Today is July 11th. It's 7/11. If any of you are familiar with the 7-Elevens, the little first, I believe 7-Elevens were, quote me if I'm wrong, but like your little convenience stores. At least it was when I was a kid. That was the first ones we knew as a real franchise, but we'll have to Google that in America. But 7-Eleven, it's 7/11, 2019, for all you time travelers out there. We honor everyone in the metaphysical world and in the expanse of consciousness, what is origin? What is consciousness? What are we inside these physical meat suits we're walking and talking in? Some can talk, some can walk, some can walk and talk, some can even listen and hear and speak at the same time. I've never figured that one out. I can barely speak and tie my shoe at the same time, but I have tried that one. So we're here to have fun and to be support for each other. And the ACO is a group of people that we started a long time ago, and actually in Kentucky, and now I'm in Florida, and like I mentioned, Ken's in New Mexico around Albuquerque, and Thomas R. Becker is who you're referring to, Ken Thomas R. Becker, Tom, and he goes by a Mad Painter, which is his, I guess you'd say pen name or art name. Mad, just real quick, on being an artist, when you don't sign your name, but you're like Cher, I guess, in the music world, but as an artist, you know, Leonardo da Vinci, we all know his name, but we don't all know a Mad Painter. So how did you come up with that name, and you do sign your artwork a Mad Painter or just a Mad?
I just put a Mad on them, and the reason I come up with it is because everybody thought I was slightly insane, so... Just a little mad.
Serious? A little on a mad, crazy scientist going into space. Well, whenever I think of a mad scientist, I think of the gentleman that had all the white hair, sort of like Einstein. I guess we all think sort of like a small Einstein, but the gentleman that was in Back to the Future, that actor played, I don't know his name, I wish I did, folks, but, you know, we use science and we use science fiction a lot in movies, and some of my best friends write some far out stuff out there, but I guess Tom Clancy, I don't know why Tom Clancy in Rainbow Six just really did it for me as far as military science fiction, but he based it on a lot of stuff in the military. And Mad is basing his artwork, I guess, in a lot of space out there. And you can catch a Mad Painter, but it's Thomas R. Becker is the actual man meat suit, I guess one might say. You'll hear things here you may not hear other places, or other places that are friends of mine have their own radio shows, and they get in touch with me. And I'm not going to drop any names, but I'm even amazed at some of the famous people that tune in to see what we're talking about and to see, and they challenge me to see what else I can come up with or where my head's at. I've been on quite a few radio shows in the past, and it was fun. But where I'm at now, folks, is I'm really looking at how the Allied Command that Ahmad and Ken have agreed to help me with is the fact that out in space we actually have various levels. And they, to me, the way that was explained to me in my reality, and that's in 3D, although we do go by the 10 realities right now because it seems to be more accepted, is the fact that we have other dimensions and realms and other universes, and we're starting to adopt that in even our scientific, not just theological, or in our religious realms, because we know that Scientologists and the Mormons are now the Latter-day Saints. They all believe in we come from somewhere out there in space, and for whatever reason, the beliefs may not have anything to do with our truth, and truth may or may not have anything to do with reality, our consciousness in the universal laws. So we're starting to get really in the deep end of the pool with deep thinkers and philosophers, especially those that are like us, that like ufology, alienology, phenomenology, and parapsychology, and it all seems to go together these days. And we're talking about theoretical science and quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and how is it possible we can do time travel. And if time and space, we call it space-time in science now, quantum science, and space-time like a fourth dimension. We'd say time is definitely the fourth dimension because we have to be somewhere at a certain time in a certain place. So we say time, space, and matter, but where are you in space? So we have to have a point of origin. I think most of us learned that probably for the first time in the movie Stargate from the scientist. Or if you remember the gentleman that played that part in Stargate where he said you have to have 3 points to figure your points of origin. So we use that in space, and a lot of our people say that's why we always have 3 stars. Really? Well, tell us about it. How's that work? It
figures out you have to have 6, and the 6th one is the origin.
The 6 points? I've always heard 3.
Yeah,
so
the 6 points would be origin.
You're going to have to give a class and bring us all up to date and teach us. You're going to have to bring it up and teach us, too.
Yeah, it would take quite a bit to explain, and I'd have to do quite a bit of thinking, but I'm positive it's 6 positions.
6 points is a different way to speak. Well, I knew if you wanted to know where you were in navigation, we always had 3 points, but navigation in space, but I don't know if we're supposed to start that or not, but to tell you the truth, the navigation in space, we're going to be doing our best to draw ways to speak about ourselves in space, not just on sea and in the air, but space navigation. They always use star sightings, and believe it or not, we're using new science and radio communication, navigating in space, time and navigation. So Deep Space Nine, do y'all remember that? Deep Space Nine, NASA, how we're dealing with science fiction starships that navigate in deep space. And are we one of these groups? Are we really? Because we're spinning around on a planet. Who's to say this isn't a terraformed space traveling planet, other than we've been out there for billions of years, and we're changing what we talk about in history these days. So space exploration, the techniques used to navigate, and how we're going to invent new ways of space navigation around a lot of what we call space junk and our radio communication out there in the distances of space. And why is it important now? Because a lot of people, they don't think we ought to go out in space. And I believe if we came from space, we ought to get back out there and be autonomous, and not just on this planet, but many, many others. And because I've met in my reality, which doesn't make sense unless you're an advocate of space travel and inside the mind, the